Welcome to the Healers Café, the #1 show for medical practitioners and holistic healers to have heart-to-heart conversations about their day-to-day lives while sharing their expertise for improving your health and wellness. So welcome to the Healers Cafe, and today I have an unusual guest, and actually by choice, because he is not so-called in the health field or a health practitioner. His name is Sir Darren Jacklin. So let me tell you just a little bit about him. I didn't know what sir meant, because I know what doctor means, and I know that that's often misused, but sir means that he was knighted by the Royal Highness of the Royal Family of Spain in June 2022, last year, for an acknowledgement of his global philanthropy and entrepreneurship. And there's much more that Sir Darren Jacklin has accomplished. He has also trained 157 Fortune 500 companies over 25 years. He has traveled 50 countries on 4 continents. He's a world-class speaker, corporate trainer who has personally trained over 1 million people in person. This is globally. He also rang the closing bell at NASDAQ 3 times in New York City. And he's an active global traveler, committed to raising $100 million for his global philanthropy projects through his international LY2NK Foundation. You'll have to tell us a little bit more about that. And also Elevate to Educate. Let me think, did I catch most of this? I think other than a book, Until I Become, and your upcoming trip to Antarctica, I think as a short bio that I'll have to do right now, but I'm really honored that you said yes spontaneously to being on the Healers Cafe.
Grateful to be here and grateful
Welcome.
to be of service and make a difference.
So, gosh, I think what I'd like to start with is, kind of why you said yes. Why you said, sure, I'll be on a healer's show, because I have ideas about that, but I'd love to know what
Yeah, great question. So I think from my experience, struggled with childhood trauma. And what really changed my life in the last few years is hiking. I'm obsessed with hiking today. I originally, just a few years ago, started hiking just before the global pandemic of COVID-19 to actually release weight. I was 43 pounds heavier and I wanted to release weight. And I just didn't feel like being in a gym, in an artificial environment. I wanted to be out in nature. So I released the weight and became so just addicted to hiking for my mental health and mental well-being that I got invited to summit Mount Kilimanjaro at 19,340 feet in Tanzania, East Africa. So I did that in July of 2023, and it just radically changed my life in so many different ways, from all the training, a year of training, the collaboration, the orientation, the scenario planning, just how I feel, optimum health in terms of return on life, return on energy. And I think dealing with healers is a lot of times, from my experience, I have a large network of a lot of people, as I see a lot of healers out there all the time taking care of everybody else professionally and personally, but sometimes neglect to take care of their own self-care, their own mental health and well-being. And I hike with a lot of these men and women from all over the world, like psychologists, doctors, physicians, chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, all that stuff. So I get a chance to see behind the scenes when we're out in nature hiking for a cause for Elevate to Educate. And I think it's so important today when we look at mental health and just seeing the ripple of impact of people dealing with mental health issues on a professional level. Myself, my 20s and 30s, I struggled with suicide attempts. I struggled with my direction and focus, with depression, dark sleepless nights and stuff. And I think now I'm 51 now, I've turned the corner in my life, and I see tools and things that can really serve humanity and make a positive difference. And I think that it's a conversation today that needs to be talked about, because a lot of people today suffer in silence. There's a lot of silence out there that people that, sometimes when you see somebody who's got out there on social media, you see like, oh my gosh, I'd love to have their life's all put together. And then we see that, and then all of a sudden we see a few months later, a few years later, they commit suicide. or they go through a nasty breakup or something drastic happens in their life. You think, oh my gosh, how could that happen to that person? But we don't see what's going on behind the scenes of what they're dealing with mental health. And,
Yeah.
a lot of us deal with it from all walks of life. Mental health's a big thing.
No, it definitely is. And I think, we live in a bit of a superficial judgment society. It's like it's all the names, all the labels, all the all
Yeah.
of that, and we don't analyze what made us want to be that or learn that, or our path, and how it's interesting to see that you committed, okay, I need to lose some weight, because if you look at what is being said about this, I call it a pandemic, but
Pandemic,
anyways,
yeah.
um, is that yeah, weight is a problem, right? So you took it
Mhm.
in hand, and boom, that opened up another whole way, another opportunity, another lesson,
Mhm.
another piece. I also want to have you maybe talk a little bit about, because a lot of healthcare practitioners have misconceptions about money and about, we all know that there has to be some exchange, that
Mhm.
you can give a so-called free treatment, you can
Yes.
help a person, but but if it is what you're doing and it is your business, there has to be an exchange of energy,
Yes.
right? And so I thought, here you are, very successful on that level, and a philanthropist by choice, because not everyone who has the means is a philanthropist, or they're
Mhm.
phony ones, like we have a lot of philanthropists doing quite nasty things. They're just running the back end of businesses forward.
For sure.
I
Yeah.
won't call names, but they're,
Yeah.
they're, they're quite well known nowadays, and that's certainly not the type of philanthropist you are. So I just
No.
want you to kind of talk about what you do, and also how that serves your mental health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because I always look at life that time will either promote you or time will expose you. It's
Mm.
just a matter of time whether you get promoted or you get exposed. And I'm all about getting promoted in life, not getting exposed. My grandfather on my dad's side taught me at a very young age that your last name, my last name is Jacklin, that last name, you want it to be of character, of integrity, of ethics,
Mm.
and longevity. And so I've really taken that to heart, that, reputational risk and living life with integrity is important and stuff. And, I think with what we do is, with Link Foundation, LY2NK, is something that Tatiana and I created together, was to really serve humanity. Tatiana, my partner in life, was a high school teacher for 35 years, 3 academic degrees in the top universities in Canada. And after 35 years, she came to work with me as an entrepreneur, running different businesses and an international foundation. And she gets much more enjoyment and enrichment and fulfillment and joy from doing that now. And she works more behind the scenes, day-to-day operations, where I work more visionary. But one of the things that we've done over the last few years with regards to mental health and people's mental well-being, including ourselves, is doing hiking fundraisers through Elevate to Educate. So I started hiking just for myself to release weight, like I shared earlier. But what happened was I started posting on my social media channels about the results that I was producing with releasing all this weight and how I was transforming my body. And if people go back and see the timeline of my social media, you'll see the timeline of everything unfolding. And you're like, wow, you can see him transforming. In fact, I'm starting to look even younger from doing all this, being out in nature and breathing all the great oxygen and the sunrises and the sunsets and being out in nature. And so what I realized was that with Link Foundation, we started building schools for some of the most impoverished children across the planet. And for various different reasons. One is to help decrease human and child sex trafficking and organ harvesting, which is the fastest growing, most lucrative financial business on the planet today, which has surpassed the drug trade industry by, which is sad to hear and sickening. And then the other thing is I've had a chance to go on a number of humanitarian trips around the world. And when I go to some of these most impoverished places on the planet, and I talk to the people, whether they speak English or through a translator, with these men and women, they always say, please give us books. Please provide us with education. Give us the tools to change the narrative of what's going on in our villages and our communities. And so Tati and I started our first school over in Liberia, West Africa, as a pilot school with over 300 kids from preschool to grade 6 now. And the first time ever in their lives, these children ever get a chance to go to school and get an education. So we're disrupting and changing that system to help them with, alleviate them from poverty. So then as I was taking people out hiking with me in Vancouver, Canada, and across the United States and internationally, I started to get so much joy and enrichment seeing people have so much fun and just de-stress, just have authentic, vulnerable, heart-centered relationship conversations while we're out in nature. They took the mask off, no ego, just what so is and what's really going on in people's lives. Because, I always share with people in life, we're either coming from a problem, we're in a problem right now, or we're heading towards a problem. But every human being, from my experience of, working with a few million people around the world, from all over the planet, is every human being is dealing with something in their lives, personally. There's always something going on. We're always solving for some problem in our lives. That's what we're doing as human beings. And so what we started to do was we started to do hiking fundraisers. We bring people from all walks of life. They come out. We have set dates on the calendar. We do these hiking fundraisers at hikingfundraiser.com through Elevate to Educate. They come out. They pay a small registration fee. We get corporate sponsorship and we get private donors. They contribute financial dollars. People get a tax receipt if they live in the US or Canada, because Link Foundation is an international foundation that's registered and compliant in integrity. And when the hike is done that day, because of technology, we can connect people through social media and various different technology tools. And now we build a school around the world for some of the most impoverished children. So people get a chance to come out and hike for a cause, which is great, because then, if you're not feeling good about your life, maybe you've been through a recent breakup, or you got some financial challenges, or you just don't have some direction or focus in your life, or things are just not working out. When you come out and you get a chance to be in conversation with other people, you realize, oh my gosh, my life is difficult compared to what? My life really isn't so bad. And so when you realize that, wow, I can help some of the most impoverished people across the planet, to help them alleviate them from poverty, help provide access to clean drinking water, help providing education as the next generation as part of your legacy, and you get a chance to put your fingerprints on there, it's really enriching and really rewarding. So we've had so many people come out and be part of our community, our global community, and just their lives are changing, because people are like, oh, life's not going so well. But then when I get them to dedicate their life to a cause greater than themselves and work on that project, now they get enrichment and fulfillment from that. And that's helping to create a positive impact on people's mental health. And it's so rewarding for myself to just see people's lives being lit up and inspired. And they're getting two things. In business, people talk about return on investment, ROI. I look at ROL, what's the return on life? And ROE, what's the return on energy? So are you doing things throughout the waking hours of your day that are giving you that return on life and also giving you that return on energy? And so I always invite people to come out as an invitation to come join hikingfundraiser.com and be part of our community. And even if you're just brand new at hiking or walking, just get into the environment, because your environment is stronger than your willpower, and get around positive, inspiring people who have hope and dreams and possibility to make a difference on this planet in a positive way. And you'll meet people from all walks of life, from all different age groups, from all different backgrounds. Because the cool thing about this is that as human beings, all we are is a network of conversations. So we have all kinds of different conversations going on that you can lean into and be part of that conversation and have an inspiring conversation with somebody.
Yeah, no, I love what you're doing. Really, it's quite incredible. And the other thing you mentioned, the dark side of, I mean, I don't think there's a positive side to the child trafficking, the industry of it, and then who's involved and all that. And this is all coming out. Thank God. It is starting to hit even the regular news now. So I think we're finally at a turning point. But having this sort of visibility, not just for the cause and the good, but it also it holds people accountable. You can't suddenly have a whole classroom disappear and show up on a bus somewhere else. It's like it really is eyes on the community, and you're part of a bigger community. So I think that also really contributes, like indirectly, but quite directly.
Absolutely. I always say with people, never assume you're not being observed. We're always being watched, we're always being observed, right? And people are always watching and observing what's going on. And the thing is that people think they can get away with things, and you might short-term get away with things. But as I shared earlier, time will either promote you or time will expose you, just a matter of time. And so I always think if you just do things the right way, and listen, we're human beings, we screw up, but then we can apologize. We can acknowledge and recognize. And one of the things that I had a big breakthrough in my own life, and I'm grateful to Tatiana, the love of my life, my relationship, is she woke me up. She woke me up as a man because I was asleep at lying to myself. I was lying throughout my life. I've lied a lot to myself and lied to other people. And being in this relationship with Tatiana, she woke me up to the fact that, hey, you're lying to yourself. It's a blind spot for you and you don't even see it. And that was a big wake up call for me as a man, thinking, wow, I'm actually lying to myself. And so now throughout the waking hours of my day, I focus on being present to look at where do I lie. Like in my 20s and 30s, I was good at exaggerating things and embellishing things. And, and I wanted people to like me and I wanted approval. And I wanted validation. I wanted acceptance because inside my internal dialogue was, I'm not good enough. Right. I'm not smart enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not lovable enough. Right. And that was a big thing for me in my life, was realizing, oh my gosh, like I'm doing these things because I want to feel loved. I want to feel accepted. I want to be understood. I want to be seen. And so I was doing all these crazy things as a human being because of childhood trauma and then not dealing with the root cause of it. Yeah. And so getting around different people in my environment and getting to be woken up because people were having some uncomfortable conversations with me that I didn't want to hear because my ego got in the way. But then when I was open to it, I'm like, wow, I can surrender into this and lean into this. Oh my gosh, wow. Okay, these people really do have my back. They really do care about me. And that was a big impact for me, to shake me up and wake me up and to realize, oh my gosh, stop lying to myself. Stop lying to other people. And when we look at it, growing up as children, we're lied to about the tooth fairy, the Easter bunny, Santa Claus, all these things we get lied to. And if you look around your life, and I invite people to always look around your life, just look around where you lie. You lie about your weight, you lie about your finance, you lie about your relationship, you lie about how you're feeling, about your job, your career, your business. You don't really tell people the truth. We talk about news, weather, sports, and traffic as surface conversations. But oh my gosh, if somebody ever really gets deep with us, then we got to run. It's too confining for most people.
Yeah.
I've taken, it's interesting. With hiking, it's introduced me to a global platform, a lot of people. And I've had a chance to meet a lot of very famous, very influential people around the world who've come out with me on hiking trips. And you see these people in global media and the movies and out there in the public, high visibility, high exposure. When I take them on a hiking trail and I get them up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, they come do a sunrise hike, or we're doing a hiking fundraiser, they come out with me. And you see them as a human being and they're vulnerable and they're in nature. And then you see them, oh my gosh, like nobody's trying to get an autograph or take a picture or any of that kind of stuff. And you just see them, this little boy or this little girl inside them that just wants to be liked, just wants to be loved, just wants to be accepted, just wants to be understood as a human being. And you take off this mask. Like I'll share with you, one time I was in Uganda, East Africa, and I went on this humanitarian trip and I got invited to go up this rural part of northern Uganda, East Africa. And so it took a whole day to get out there in a Toyota Land Cruiser, get out there in a safari vehicle. They dropped me off for 3 days. And all I got is the clothes on my back. And so I arrived to these mud huts. And I'm thinking, okay, this is really interesting, right? This is where they live in these mud huts, no electricity, no running water, totally off the grid. So I walk up to greet these people and they speak English. Some of the people in the village spoke English. And when I walked up to them, I had my safari clothes on, right? And the elder in the village says to me, he goes, sir, why are you wearing a costume? What do you have to hide from us? Why don't you just be your true, authentic, vulnerable self? And I'm like, you want me to take my clothes off and be completely naked and walk around naked in your village for the next 3 days? Because everybody else is naked. And I wanted to look good, but I also didn't want to look bad. I had this ego thing going on in my head of looking good, not want to look bad, looking good. And so I thought, oh my gosh, okay, enough mind chatter, just take my clothes off. And I just felt free. And it was so interesting that they call this a costume.
Right.
To protect our meat suit, this costume of what was I hiding in my society, in my culture, what was I hiding? And they could care less. They just want to be my true, authentic, vulnerable self. Wow. And it was a life-changing experience for me that I was so attached to my clothing to protect myself.
Right.
And not realizing these people could care less in their culture.
No, and protect. And also, I mean, what's worse in our society, we also advertise with our clothes. We're doing marketing pieces, for other companies almost without realizing it.
Absolutely, all the time. Yeah.
It's quite shocking. Well, what an experience. I was going to say a comment on your poetry, because in this process of, like, I would call it like a deep reconnection or awakening I'm not sure if you have other words for that, but your poetry is, I always have tears when I read it.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's so beautiful. I don't know if you have, I didn't give you any warning, but if you have anything handy you want to share with people, I should have probably suggested it, but
Yeah.
I'm only
I have
one.
nothing in front of me. If people go to my social media, you can read it. I just feel that when I have a chance to just sit, and a lot of this comes to me when I'm in nature or when I'm journaling, and I
Yeah.
just connect to my heart and I just think, okay, I call it recreation, right? You recreate somebody of stepping into their shoes of what that human being is dealing with. What's that man or woman going through? Like one thing I'm very sensitive about is animals. If somebody's animal's dying or sick, I'm very sensitive to that. Harming children, I'm very sensitive to that. And so when I see on social media somebody has a sick child or a sick dog or something like that, or a sick animal, oh my gosh, it's just emotional. But if I just sit with those emotions and feelings, I'm just like an artist. I'm able to write things down, and it just flows through me. And I can people really feel gotten or seen when I just share with people, when I tap into that vulnerability and intuition side of myself. It's pretty powerful. And I'm grateful for that. I can do that.
Yeah, because that's also, and not enough discussed in a healing process, right?
Yeah.
Is to, well, one, spend time with nature.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just the electrons. There's
Yeah, and traveling too. Traveling where
traveling.
we go to different parts of different cultures. Like I've been to 51 countries now, and I've been, when I go to these places and I see people who live in mud huts, like in Uganda, East Africa, or Kenya. I was just last year. I was in Tanzania, East Africa. I went and did Mount Kilimanjaro. Went on a few days safari, and I asked my safari driver. I had a powerful request from him. I said, "Listen, I've seen the big five animals on the safari." I said, "Do you know any Messiah warriors?" He goes, "Yeah, I know Messiah warrior tribe." I said, "Listen, one of my audacious goals in my life is to actually go meet with the Messiah warriors."
What would your life be like if you were pain-free? If you were one of the millions who suffer from chronic pain, the thought of just one day without it may seem impossible. This is often because conventional medicine tends to fall short in the treatment of pain, opting to prescribe pills or recommend surgery rather than getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you are suffering with emotional or physical pain, there is hope. Join the founder and CEO of Bowen College, Manon Bolliger, live online for your body-mind reboot. Learn how to listen to your symptoms and get to the root cause of your pain. Plus, be trained in basic Bowen therapy moves so that you can reboot your body for optimal health. You don't have to live in pain. You can heal. Stop the pain pill cycle by visiting www.yourbodymindreboot.com to learn more and to register.
Warriors that are in, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, East Africa. These are men and women who live completely off the grid. People can research it online, the Messiah warrior tribes. And they don't like to be contacted by a lot of us because if we have a cold or a cough or a flu, we can wipe out their population. So they're very protective of interacting with civilians' life. So I got this invitation, and then they brought me out there. They checked me. I was totally fine. I got to spend an afternoon with the Messiah warrior tribe in Tanzania. And it was a life-changing experience for me to meet these men and women. And I some of the things I learned that day, and how they communicate, how they connect in community and shared experiences, I now practice and use my life back here in North America, right? So we can learn a lot when we travel and meet different people, even volunteering or going to a soup bank or a soup kitchen or a food bank, just meeting other people that have a different story and a different journey that they're on, and seeing where these men and women are going through, what's going on in their lives, right? Because I was once in my 20s, I was eating my next meal at a garbage dumpster in Vernon, British Columbia, Canada. I was homeless, living on the streets, living on welfare for a period of time because I had some hiccups in my entrepreneurship journey and some things didn't go well. And I went bust on some things. And so I know it's like to be down and out. I know it's like to achieve financial success as well through a lot of pain, a lot of adversity, a lot of setbacks, and a lot of challenges. I don't know if you knew this about me, but I actually used to have an R9 credit rating. And when I share with people about this, people are like, "What are you talking about? What's an R9 credit rating?" Well, people can research it online. But with TransUnion Credit and Equifax, our credit score monitoring companies in North America, an R9 credit rating is the worst possible credit score that you can get on the system as a number. R9 is the worst case scenario. And I used to have an R9. In fact, I was so financially broke at one time in my life that I actually went into a company to declare personal bankruptcy. They went through my application process. And when they came time to file my application, I had to pay, I think it was 15 or 1,600 Canadian dollars back at the time. And it was back in the 1990s. I didn't have the money. So I couldn't call any friends or family because I owed them all money back then, which I cleaned all that up and I'm back in integrity with all that now, which I'm grateful for, restored my integrity and I got my money right. But I was so financially broke that I couldn't afford to go bankrupt because I couldn't pay the fees to go bankrupt. So people ask me all the time, they go, Darren, did you ever go bankrupt in your business? I said, couldn't afford it.
I didn't actually realize you have to pay for that too.
Yeah, you got filing fees, application fees, or whatever they call it today. Yeah.
So how do you account for like your turnaround, the success financially specifically? Like, how did that like come about?
Yeah. I was 38 years of age, up and down financially. I remember one day I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? Just up and down financially all the time. And it was a roller coaster. And I got, and what my breakthrough came for me, because in my life, I realized you got to go through the breakdown to have the breakthrough. And my breakdown was getting so disgusted with myself about how financially screwed up I was. And so I just got upset, disgusted with myself. And at that moment, I went through a breakdown. And the breakdown was basically like a reset, a refocus, a redirection of my life. And I said, listen, I'm getting close to 40 years of age. I'm going to dedicate my 40s to getting my money right, restoring my financial integrity and getting things organized and up to date, like in compliance, right? Because I wasn't sure where everything was at. And that was a turning point for me. Then I went to courses, webinars, read books, got mentors, got coaches, joined mastermind groups of people that were doing better financially than me, because the environment is stronger than my willpower. I got around people to hold me at a higher standard of accountability, responsibility, and integrity. And it didn't happen overnight. It was a process I went through. And then I looked at where are the areas of my life that I'm financially out of integrity. Did I borrow money from somebody, didn't pay them back? Friends or family members, relatives. And I went through all this stuff in my life. I just deconstructed through like an audit of my life. And I went through it and it was painful. It was really painful. I did not want to do it. Right? But then I realized, where am I lying to myself? Where am I lying to myself? I'm in fantasy land here of what I think my life is really at, but the what so is that's not the truth. That's not the facts, because my life doesn't demonstrate what I really want. Right. And so that's the thing, is I looked at my life as where's the evidence? And that was the turning point in my life, is doing the hard work and confronting myself and going through the painful process for myself. And then just restructuring things by having uncomfortable conversations. What I realized was that things I kept secret about my finances just actually hurt me even more. And so when I started to share with a select group of people that I know in confidence and in trust and confidentiality would hold that sacred information, I could share with them what's really going on, what's the what so, and just deal with the facts. Like, man, here's where I'm at financially. Here's the real facts. Not exaggerating, not embellishing, not lying about it. Here's the what so. And here's the uncomfortable pain of what's going on in my life. And that was the big breakdown for me. And then from that breakdown, I go through the breakthrough. And I just skyrocketed. And over the last decade, things have just been incredible. I've made millions of dollars, been very successful financially, and done a lot of things. And Tete and I've committed, $100 million towards global philanthropy projects over the next decade, through our international foundation. But I went from somebody who couldn't manage money to now somebody who has a portfolio of businesses and companies and investments internationally, and has been to NASDAQ 3 times during the closing bell and helped take a company, served on their board of directors, from a startup to a multi-billion-dollar company, with 90,000 people in 24 countries on 5 continents with a team. So I come from a lot of, not just talking about it, but actually doing it and doing the hard work and going through the struggles and the challenges and the uncomfortable experiences, but coming on the other side and feeling blessed with gratitude that I did it. Because I always say, if you're willing to do what's hard, life becomes easier. If I do what's easier, life becomes harder. For example, I'm 51 years of age now. And I got confronted recently by one of my, I'm training right now to go to Antarctica in January 2025 to summit Mount Vinson in terms of supportive Link Foundation and Elevate to Educate to raise money and raise awareness on mental health and building more schools. And I realized in my life, because I have on my phone, everything I eat, I track on an app. Everything that passes my lips, I track on my app. Okay. And I have an accountability coach that every week I have a meeting. Well, recently on a Zoom video call, he confronted me that I'm actually like a drug addict. I'm a sugar addict. And I realized that based on my results, I've been addicted to sugars. And now is a huge awareness and saying, if I just keep doing that, that I may create or attract disease to my life based on the high levels of sugar I was eating. And I've done it all my life up until now. So now, after having that uncomfortable conversation and then realizing I can course correct now, and there's an accountability and responsibility there, now I'm course correcting in terms of what I eat, in terms of my food. And I tell you, I start to feel different now. I'm starting to sleep different, and things starting to change in my life. Now, I still get the cravings, but now I make different choices of what I'm eating versus going to the Dairy Queen and the McDonald's and the fast food places, right? So, but it took a bit for a coach to confront me and say, look, how's this working for you, Darren?
Right.
Because if you keep doing what you're doing, this is where you're headed. And you better course correct. And so he sold me the nightmare, not the dream. And I had to be uncomfortable with the nightmare, not the dream, and realizing that this is where my life is headed health-wise if I don't make a change. I realized my big wake-up call with my health was a few years ago. I was 48 years of age. I was in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, at a hotel. They're speaking at an international real estate conference with some of the most successful, most influential men and women that are in real estate in various different companies across North America. The who's who, like the Grammy Awards of real estate, was in that room of about 1,200 people. And I'm a guest speaker on stage at this conference, okay? And I'm in my hotel room getting prepared. I have a brand new suit, brand new shirt, dress shirt, and I realized that I put my dress shirt on that my buttons might blow on my dress shirt. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm getting exposed here right now, not getting promoted. And where am I going to walk on stage so I don't blow a button and have that videotaped and have it be on some YouTube video? Right? I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. And I went on stage and they couldn't see me, but a lot of the spotlights and the lights. But inside I'm thinking, man, I am not happy with myself. This is unacceptable. And so when I got off stage, when I returned back to my hotel room, I called up a couple of people in Vancouver, Canada. I said, listen, you guys go out hiking. I see on your social media channels. I want to come join you. So I went on a hike with them in North Vancouver, a place called Deep Cove, which you know of. And I went and did the Quarry Rock hiking trail, which most people could do in about 45 minutes to an hour. Okay. Kids in elementary school could do this hike. First time going that hike, 2 hours and 40 minutes. I get to the top of this bunny hill. It's not a big hike. It's, today it's just it's a warm up for me now, but I get to the top of there and I'm completely exhausted and out of shape and out of breath. I get to the top and I say to myself, oh my gosh, I don't want to call 911 and have to call search and rescue to come get me. This is too embarrassing. How did I let my life get out of control like this at 48 years of age? I'm almost 50 years of age and my life's out of control like this. I'm treating my body like a woodshed, treating my body like a rental car, not like a temple, this meat suit. And so I recaptured my breath. I did some affirmations, did some self-talk, looked around the view, built my mindset up, and I hiked down the mountain, a little hill, to get back to my car. Got in my car, sat in there, and I said, I don't want to live my life this way anymore. I don't want to live my life this way anymore. And that was a defining moment for me. Realizing I got to get my health under control. This is getting too out of control for me. And that was a defining moment. And so I committed to 1 hour a week of hiking. And then that 1 hour became 2 hours. And now I average about 50 to 60 miles or 80 to 100 kilometers a week of hiking. I hiked almost every day of my life, no matter what the weather's like today. And I'm obsessed with it. And now I've created this global movement called Elevate to Educate, which is huge. And it came out of me just wanting to change my life with my health because I was fat and overweight with myself. And I wasn't happy with myself. And now I create this huge movement that's now building schools around the world for some of the most impoverished children. So I turned a crisis into an opportunity that's blessing and serving a lot of other people now. So sometimes my embarrassments, my failures, my adversities become blessings for other people to serve humanity.
Yeah, but I was gonna say there's a parallel too in what you shared with the finance. It's first getting really real
Yeah,
about what's going on. Because I was thinking, oh, I've gone to so many business workshops to
yeah,
try and get, Bowen College out, and I know part of it is I have to be, or I I've been told I should be the face of it. I should go on social media, but I really don't like social media.
mhm.
So, I peek it once in a while, maybe once a week to see a little bit what's going on for 20 minutes. And that's about, my social media uh positioning, right? But and I do think there's other ways of doing things, but every time I've gone to these business events, they say 90% of it is your mindset.
For sure,
And
absolutely.
the mindset, like, first it comes, like you said, a crisis, vulnerability, and truth. And it's the same in health. You're aware that this shirt could pop,
Yeah,
and it's the same kind of thing. And then you're actually putting in like changing the habits to make it
mhm.
possible, right? So in the business part of it, like what did you, once you realized and you came clean, what were the strategic things? I mean, you can generalize, it doesn't have to be
Yep,
your, but what do you find that helps people who want to do a turnaround? Because I know many healthcare practitioners that are, struggling literally, and don't have enough space, time, ability to do what they love.
absolutely.
You
So
know,
my
and
big thing was for
I,
25 years,
yeah,
I spent traveling the world doing corporate training seminars.
yeah.
Well, I was trading time for money, and I only got paid if I did a corporate training seminar somewhere in the world. So I was constantly, every breakfast, every lunch, every dinner was always about meeting somebody who was a decision maker, HR manager, a regional vice president, a CEO, or president of a company, having a conversation with them to see if I could do business with them to get a corporate training contract. So I
Mm,
was constantly up and down financially, and it had huge expenses because I having to book all my flights, all my travel, all that stuff, and paying for it months in advance. And so what happened was I realized was when I was at 38 years of age, racking up, paying off my credit cards every month, this vicious cycle I was in, and then realized I'm not getting any younger, right? Getting paid for fee for service. The turning point for me was when I started to get around different people, started to learn about money and finances. Really, people that, some of the wealthiest people I'm around are some of the most unassuming, low profile people you'd ever imagine. They drive older vehicles, nothing fancy, nothing flashy, because it creates more visibility, more exposure, and more risks. And what I realized was that rich people don't work for money. That was a huge mindset shift for me, is that rich people work to acquire income producing assets. So my first income producing asset was $100 investment. I invested into a Canadian mortgage company. It was a small little independent mortgage company. Actually, no, sorry, $300 Canadian. I invested $300 in this company, and I got a quarterly dividend at 7% annual return with a quarterly distribution. Well, they wouldn't send me out a quarterly dividend check on 300 Canadian dollars, but I got a statement 4 times a year. And that changed my mindset when I started to invest in myself. And
right.
then started to realize that, like, so for example, today in business, I acquire companies. I do mergers and acquisitions. Is one of the things I do. And right now we're buying accounting and bookkeeping firms across North America, and we're rolling them up with one of my companies. And people say, well, how do you do that? Well, here's something to consider. As we're growing a business, because you want to grow because you want to create retirement money or put your kids through college, university, or you want to create stability or security, it's actually easier to acquire revenue than to create revenue. I'll say that
Mhm.
again so people can write that down. It's actually easier to acquire revenue than to actually go out and create revenue. So a lot of times we have a startup company, we're out there hustling and grinding and joining all the networking groups, BNI, Women in Business, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, all that stuff, to meet and network with people, right? Going to the trade shows, the seminars, the conferences, the workshops, all that stuff, right? Which I've done all that, and I'm sure you probably have as well. The challenge is this treadmill that we're on, this vicious cycle. So when money comes into our household, this is what I learned in my 38, 39, 40s. I'd heard this before by reading books, but never applied it practically. And my life demonstrated with evidence was that when money came into my life, what's the first thing I did with it? Money. I paid bills. I paid expenses. But now when money comes in now, first thing I do is I pay myself.
Mhm.
And that was different, was paying myself first financially. Now, I couldn't do 10%. because I had too much financial debt in the back before, right? Today I'm debt free, but I had a lot of debt, bad debt. Bad debt costs you money, good debt makes you money, right?
Yeah.
So I have friends of mine that are in debt for hundreds of millions of dollars and some a few $1 billion, but it's good debt. Good debt puts money into your pocket. Bad debt takes money out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So for me was realizing I've got to start investing into things that will pay me. So I'll give you an example. I'll tell you for real life. In my early 40s, I became a millionaire. For the first time in my life, I became a millionaire. Okay. So I called up one of my friends one time, who was a mentor of mine in San Francisco, and he came back and forth strictly from San Francisco to Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And does a lot of work. You know, he's got multiple companies, and one of his companies worked in the movie industry in Vancouver. They sold the props and rented out the props to the movie industry. So I phoned him up. I said, guess what? I'm now a millionaire. He's like, great. Next time I'm in Vancouver, Canada, we're going for sushi. And he said, I want to sit down with you. But before I sit down with you, I want you to call up your accountant and get a verified personal financial net worth statement. And I said to him, I said, Mark, but I have to pay for that. He goes, I don't care if it costs you $500. Get it done. Or we're not going to have dinner. And I'm like, okay. So anyways, I called my accountant. He charged me $500 to do a verified personal financial net worth statement. So I get him a personal financial net worth statement. I'm worth about $1.3 million. And I go meet Mark. I sit down with him for sushi. We're in this busy sushi restaurant in downtown Vancouver. Okay. And Mark looks over. He's a real numbers guy. Looks over my financial net worth statement. And he goes, congratulations, Darren. Shakes my hand. He goes, you're now a millionaire. So you know what he does? He says to me, he said, Darren, let me ask you a couple of questions. He goes, do you have a credit card or debit cards on you? I said, yeah. He goes, put it on the table. I was okay. So I go ahead and I put my wallet on the table. And he says, do you have an ATM card? I said, yeah. He goes, show me your ATM card or cards. So I open up my wallet. I show my ATM cards. He goes, good. He goes, you see down the street there out the window, there's an ATM machine. He goes, right now, can you get up out of this chair, walk around to that ATM machine and take out $2,000 in cash? Yes or no? And I said, no. He goes, can you run or walk to that ATM machine right now and take out $1,000 cash? Yes or no? I said, no. He goes, can you do $500 cash? Yes or no? I said, no. He goes, how much can you do? And I'm thinking, well, I've got a line of credit for $100. I said, Mark, I can probably do $220 to $240 cash on the ATM machine right now. He looks at me and goes, really? That's it? He goes, that's it. I said, that's all I got. He said, so how liquid right now are you in cash? I said, well, $220, $240 Canadian. Because that's your liquid money right now. You can get. Yeah. Because how much money you got in your pocket right now? I said, I got nothing. He goes, so you know what he does? He stands up in this sushi restaurant in front of this packed sushi restaurant where people are eating, enjoying their lives, eating dinner. And he goes, ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? He goes, I am sitting here with my friend right now who's now officially a millionaire. And here's his verified personal financial net worth statement. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He's effing broke. And I just felt like crawling at the table and hiding and then just punching him in the face. I was so freaking embarrassed. And he's from New York. He's from New York. He's a New Yorker. And I look at this guy, I said, why the heck would you do that? He goes, because you know why? Here's why, Darren. And he looks at me, he goes, always remember this. You cannot eat your financial net worth. You can only eat cash flow. You're broke. You're broke. He goes, look good on paper, $1.3 million. Congratulations. Let's have a group hug. You're worth $1.3 million. But this doesn't feed you because you've got no cash flow. You don't have multiple streams of income. And he goes, I did this to make you feel pain, to get so disgusted and embarrass yourself that you would leave this restaurant either wanting to punch me in the face or wanting to make a drastic change in your life. I hope you get the life lesson. And because that guy embarrassed me and humiliated me so much, and I felt so much pressure and pain, that changed my life. I started to then look at, how do I buy income producing assets?
Right.
How do I start to create multiple revenue streams? How do I start to solve problems for other people and then get paid a piece of cash and equity on that? Right. And today I'm involved in multi-million-dollar deals. I'm involved in some deals right now that are in the hundreds of millions of dollars, right? That are involved with deals right now with M&A stuff, right, throughout the world. But it started where I thought I was doing really well. And I was pretty proud of myself and cocky and ego, like, man, I've done this, right? Like, I got some money off some stocks I did and some investments. And that's, I did really well, some stocks that I had. And one stock was a big home run. And but I didn't realize that I couldn't eat my net worth. I could only eat cash flow.
Yeah.
And so I've met a lot of people in life who are very good financially on paper. They're worth a lot of money, but they don't have any liquid cash or cash flow, and they can't do much with it. So that was a turning point in my life, was it? Because my mentors told me, well, we'll have a big financial net worth. Well, but you can't eat it.
Yeah. I've often said the same, I have a nice place to where I'm living, but if I run out of cash, I can't take a wall down and start eating it, so
Sure.
you definitely need a different strategy. But it's funny because that is definitely not one of the ones discussed, amongst ourselves, or any idea of what else. So we're like way over time here, but I just wanted to thank you for sharing that, because I
I'm
think
grateful. Yeah. I have to be authentic with people and just be, what's the real stuff really going on? When I used to go to workshops and seminars, I would see people on stage and I would put them on a pedestal. And I put myself in the pit because I was never good enough or smart enough or like them.
Right.
And they would talk about some vacation or trip they went on, or some vehicle they bought, or home they bought, or watch they bought. And I'm just thinking, well, how do I pay my rent on time? Like I it's such a gap with me trying to figure out what they're doing. I couldn't relate to this. So I'd leave the seminar discouraged and depressed and upset, thinking, why did I spend that money? I couldn't have had one on my credit card. And now I'm even more discouraged because I never got next steps of what to do to turn my life around. And I was putting these people on pedestals and put myself in the pit. And then I started to realize, oh my gosh, I just have to realize that, okay, my goal is to pay my rent on time. My goal is to increase my credit rating, which I've done, right?
Yeah.
So just start small, baby steps, and then consistently compound over a period of time, things will change.
No, I think it's actually it's encouraging to for me to hear this as well, because my big passion, as you know from before, is Bowen College, and I really
Absolutely.
method because it's so accessible, so easy to do, everywhere. And I was realizing also with the few years we had of no touching and all these rules, it was very hard to keep the business alive when you can't run workshops and that. So I spent a lot of time looking for other ways, and that sort of forced me to really think differently. And it's like you have a passion, and and sometimes spending all of your energy in it isn't going to be the way out of it. I mean, the way forward for it. Sometimes you have to be able to make sure that everything is floating so that you can actually move forward, so anyway, so yes, thank you for that. Anyway, a true pleasure, speaking with you and having this conversation, and I think it'll be greatly appreciated by my community.
Grateful to serve and make a difference. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café. If you haven't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on, as I post a new podcast every Wednesday with tons of useful information and tips for natural healing that you won't want to miss.